This fourth lecture video on force will cover the topic of friction. Friction is simply a force that resists the relative motion of two objects in contact with one another. Friction is caused by the irregularity of the two surfaces sliding or rolling across each other. There are two different types of friction that we will encounter. Imagine a time when you had to push a heavy object. Was it easier to start pushing the object or to keep it moving once it was already sliding? It should have been harder to start the object moving than to keep it sliding, as long as you were pushing it on a level surface. This is one way to think about the two different types of friction: static friction and kinetic friction. Static friction is a force that opposes the start of motion, while kinetic friction is a force that opposes the motion once the objects are already sliding against each other. Assuming you are looking at the same sets of surfaces in contact, static friction will always be greater than kinetic friction. There are three main characteristics of friction that we are going to discuss. The first characteristic of friction is that it is a force that always acts parallel to the surfaces in contact and opposite to the direction of motion. In this picture, the purple box and green surface are in contact, so friction is going to act parallel to their point of contact. If you apply a pushing force to the right, the box will move to the right. Friction will act in the opposite direction of the motion, so friction acts to the left. Essentially, the resistance to motion is a frictional force. The second characteristic of friction we will be discussing is that static friction is always greater than kinetic friction. Like I mentioned before, it is a lot more difficult to get a car moving that you are pushing than it is to keep it moving across the parking lot once the car is moving and the tires are rolling. The third characteristic of friction is that the friction increases as the force between the two surfaces increases. An example of this would be if you lightly grip a doorknob like the one pictured here, you can't really turn it. However, if you grip it tighter, then you are finally able to turn it due to the increased friction between your hands and the doorknob. Another example might be that it is easier to slide a lighter crate rather than a heavy crate across the floor because the heavier crate has a greater force, so the friction between the floor and the heavy crate will be greater than the lighter crate. One other thing that is worth mentioning here is that the area of contact between the two surfaces is not relevant when we are talking about the amount of friction present. In the next video, we will take a look at how to calculate friction as well as the coefficient of friction between two surfaces.